Hi, welcome to my biology class. Today we are just going to discuss about the digestive system. It's not an elaborate lecture, just a nibbling or a brushing up the chapter for the sake of this NEET 2021. Let us start with the human physiology, digestive system. So here the digestive system, when you talk about, first you must know that the digestive system consists of digestive tract with associated glands. And what digestion is. So we have associated glands along with, and what digestion process is. See, the digestion process, especially the associated glands and even some endocrine system involved in the intestine and all, produces some juices. Most of them are hydrolytic in nature. So the entire process is called hydrolysis too. So hydrolytic process. So for generally when you talk about a nutrition, you have important 5 steps. So ingestion, so look at here, this is ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. So ingestion means what? That you are just placing the food in your mouth, that is ingestion, that's it. Digestion, the second process is the complex nature, that is complex food is converted into a simple food. What is complex food? Like, see, for example, when you take a food in the sense we eat whatever food you eat, whether it is a curd rice or biryani, or it is a butter biscuit to pizza, whatever content you eat, those will have only the 6 important content, that is carbohydrate, protein, fats, mineral, water and vitamins. Only the 6 components are present in our food. Out of these 6 components, the 3 major components are carbohydrate, protein and fat. These are complex in nature. So when you talk about a carbohydrate, it is a polysaccharide, okay, that should be converted into monosaccharide. This is the form where the cell can absorb. So the complex matter should be converted into a absorbable form by the cells. So that is the complex to simple process. And the same thing with the protein. Protein is nothing but a complex of amino acids. So that should be converted into amino acid. And fat should be converted into fatty acid and glycerol. So this conversion is very important so that it can easily gain an entry into the cell. So when you talk about minerals, vitamins and water, they are just absorbed as such. So there is no need to go for any complexity to convert into a simple form, nothing like that. So they can be just like that absorbed by the system, that is cell. And here the digestion is the matter where the complex food is converted into a simple food. And the next thing is absorption. Absorption in the sense now the food is converted into simple form, it should be absorbed. So here we have a villi, that is finger like projection in small intestine. The food is absorbed and mixes into the blood. So this is the third stage, the food is converted, that is mixed into the blood, that is done. The fourth stage is very important stage, assimilation. The blood now going to the cell. So after reaching into the cell, what is happening? That is the cell, once it get into it, the food what we consumed is mixing with oxygen. So here it is a kind of a cellular respiration. Glucose plus oxygen converts them into ATP. So ultimate aim of eating food is formation of ATP. So to gain an energy only we are eating. So that energy compound ATP is formed in the cell. So cellular level condition, that is cellular formation of ATP is called assimilation. And the last step is what is not being digested or partially digested or overeaten food, whatever cannot be stayed long in your system, or all this to be eliminated, that is called egestion, the removal of a waste, that is defecation, feces, fecal matter getting out of your system so that you are very hale and healthy. So this is the basic thing about your digestion. So when you talk about the entire system, from esophagus, not from mouth. Look at the point, that in neat point of view, from esophagus to the rectum, the last piece here, it is the rectum, the final area, till from top to toe, not in mouth, from esophagus to rectum, we have a gut region with 4 important layers, and those 4 important layers I've drawn here. Outer serosa, okay, this is the serosa, and this 2 layer are muscularis. Second layer is muscularis, and the third layer is submucosa, and the 4th layer is mucosa. Okay, so there are 4 layers in this. The second layer, that is muscularis, has got 2 region, outer longitudinal muscle and inner circular muscle, and this will be a slight confusion. Generally you get it in the exam, inner circular or outer is longitudinal, a kind of a confusion will come. You can just remember I see, like, you know, generally we say I see. So inner circularis I see, outer longitudinal in exam point of view. And then generally the submucosa is the region which secretes the digestive juices, and at times the mucosa also secretes the digestive juices. And here I mentioned that see, submucosa secretes digestive juices in pancreas, and stomach and intestine you can go with this mucosa secretion. So inner to the mucosa, this mucosa region has got some elevations, and then the surface, the wavy appearance in stomach region, because the stomach is a reservoir where it can store food for a long time. So as you eat the food, it gets bulged out. So this kind of a wavy expansion, this is called rugae in stomach. In case of a small intestine, this forms a finger-like projections where it absorbs the food, that is called villi. So these 2 are mucosa's extension in exam point of view. Okay, so exam point of view, you are not going to write any detailed answer. So just to see that, to see mucosa and submucosa, where mucosa secretes, where submucosa secretes, and the same extension like a finger-like projection in small intestine, and in the stomach it is a wavy motion, and where it is giving the place for the intake of a food. Okay, so these are the 4 important layers present from the esophagus to rectum. So this is the digestive tract. I've just given the outline. Look at here, it starts from mouth, and then esophagus, stomach, small intestine. Small intestine has got 3 important regions: duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Ileum continues with large intestine. Again, the large intestine has got cecum, colon and rectum. And here the cecum, it has got appendix, and colon, when you talk about the colon means the large intestine is nothing but the larger diameter when compared to the small intestine. That is the meaning of a large intestine. It's not that the large intestine is lengthier than the small intestine, not that. The diameter of the muscles are quite big. And here, see, look at here, you've got 1, 2, 3 region, and there is a curve here, and that is the colon, and this is ascending, transfer, descending, and sigmoid, and then it is coming as a rectum. So let us start. So this is the structure actually, from top to toe, almost some 30 feet, you could say, 7.5 meters it comes from this area to this area to take a food and absorb, and then ingest unwanted things like that. So here the mouth, we start from mouth. When you talk about, it is the buccal cavity. You have got outer region and inner region, where the very important 2 components present in mouth is tongue and teeth. What is given in the NCERT only I am discussing here, not extra, okay, because it is purely a brush up class, as I said. See, here it is tongue and teeth. Tongue, when you talk about the tongue, this is the muscular organ. It's meant for rotating the food, and there is no any chewing action done by the tongue, and the tongue is being attached in this area, last area, the posterior region, that is called frenulum. So the attaching site is frenulum, and the tongue, when you talk about, it is muscular, as I said, and it has got a papillae on the top, and this papillae are called taste bud, and with the help of this senses we are able to recognize the taste, sweet or salt or sour, whatever it is. And then when you talk about the teeth has got some intricacy in it. We human teeth, actually it is more than this is there, but here I've just mentioned only 3 types. You can just call the human teeth with thecodont, diphyodont and heterodont. Thecodont, theca means covering, so each and every tooth is covered by a theca. So like it comes like this, it goes and then it will come like this. So this is the theca. Each and everyone is covered by a covering, so it is called thecodont. Diphyodont, di means two sets of teeth, that is milk teeth, and then it is replaced by a permanent teeth. So milk teeth, one formula is there, and permanent teeth, one formula is there. And then heterodont means, hetero means different types of teeth we have, that is incisor for cutting, incisor in the front one, cutting, and then canine for tearing, and then premolar and molar, this 4. So incisor, canine, premolar and molar for cutting and then tearing and chewing and biting kind of thing. So here this is the formula we have, 2 1 2 3, that is 2 1 2 3 by 2 1 2 3, 8 by 8. So put together, from here it starts to here upper 8, from here to here 8 8 8 8, so 32 teeth we have as an adult. And the 2 is an incisor. Here you can say this is incisor, and this is canine, and this is premolar, and this is molar. And for an adult, for children, that is the milk teeth will be 2102. 2102 in the sense they have 2 incisor and 1 canine, and there is no premolar, so 0, and only molar. So they have 2 1 2, 5 by 5. So put together ours is 32. For the children only 20 teeth is present. All this will be replaced by this teeth in future. So once they asked this in the exam, so just remember, sometimes they give what is the second number, whether it is premolar or molar. So you get confused because you generally study here 2 as a premolar, here it is actually a molar. And when you talk about the mouth, the other thing is other important, see I said here it is the associated glands. We have got 3 important associated glands here: salivary gland, liver, pancreas. Apart from this, some intestinal hormones are there, but the major glands involved in digestion is this 3. And here in the mouth we have got a salivary gland. Salivary gland, there are 3 pairs of salivary gland, not 3 pairs. So parotid gland, this is the area got a parotid gland, and submaxillary or submandibular, both you can say, submaxillary or mandibular, this is the area you have got 2. And linguistic means language efficiency. So with the help of tongue we speak. So just below the tongue you have got another pair, that is sublingual gland. Out of this 3 pairs, that is the parotid is the biggest one and the sublingual is the smallest one. These 3 pairs are secreting a very important vital juice, saliva, that we will see later, the secretion and all. So what is present in the mouth is this, and then the food is going down to the esophagus. While it is going to the esophagus, nothing is done. Okay, it is just 12 centimeter to 13 centimeter like. Here only the wavy motion is meant only for esophagus. Somebody can ask, no, it is there from the top to down, because once you place the food and you are swallowing the food, swallowing is called deglutition, and swallowing is a voluntary control. So this is exam question. See, once you place the food and you swallow it with your own will, you are swallowing. After that you don't have any action on your food. The food actions and the secretions and the digestion, everything under its own control, and we cannot control that. After that it is completely involuntary. and here in one point that you can open the anal point, there it is voluntary. So swallowing is voluntary and opening and releasing is voluntary, otherwise it is completely involuntary. So only the peristalsis is done from top to toe, but here esophagus, no digestion, nothing, only peristalsis happens. And then when the food is coming to the stomach is just a reservoir, it is J-shaped stomach. So when you talk about the stomach will come like this, it will come, so it is a complete J shape, and it has got three important regions: cardiac, fundus and pylorus. See here, this is coming like, and it goes like this. So this is the esophagus and this comes like, and this is the region, you can say cardiac region, and then the fundus region, and this is the pylorus region. And actually the body, one more region is there, here it is not mentioned, so only three regions: cardiac, fundus and pylorus. Cardiac means actually the stomach is present in the left hand side, just below. That is the exam question. This is present on the left hand side, and this is present, the liver is present on the right hand side of our body. So here it is just below the cardiac, and this is the area where this esophagus starts with the stomach, has got a sphincter muscle to open and close of its own. Sphincter means it opens and closes of its own, and this is the cardiac sphincter or gastric esophageal sphincter. This is the name given in the book, and this is also the same, both are same. So you just remember this gastric esophageal sphincter. And then the food is coming here, and here the food is stored. So the main function of stomach is storage of food and killing the microbes. After that only other actions are important. So the primary function of stomach is storage and killing the microbes with the help of HCl. And the last one is the pylorus region, is again has got a sphincter muscle, pyloric sphincter, where it opens into the duodenum. This is very important. And when you talk about the stomach, you should know this, where it is located and the shape and three important regions. And then it is coming to the small intestine. Well, the small intestine is quite big, and it is divided into three important regions: duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Duodenum, so duodenum is U-shaped. In some book it is given as U-shaped and C-shape, both are same. So here this is the duodenal region, and then jejunum, a part of a digestive process is being done, but the major digestion is being done in duodenal region. And then the ileum region. Ileum is quite lengthier, where the villi is present to absorb the food. And here the duodenum is most vital, because this is the area. So imagine this is the duodenum kind, U shape I have drawn here, and here it has got a liver and pancreas. So liver is the largest gland in our system. Largest gland, it weighs around some 1.2 to 1.5 kg, and it is bilobed. Two lobes are present, but it looked like four, but it is two lobed because of the partition, and it has got a small muscular sac, and this is called gallbladder. The main juice secreted from the liver is bile juice. The bile juice is stored in gallbladder. Gallbladder is present in the center right hand side. That is also a question. And here the gallbladder has got a duct, and that is called cystic duct. These ducts are very important here. Cystic duct. The cystic duct open into the hepatic duct. Hepatic, Shike and all in the previous the smaller animals, invertebrates you could have studied. So this is the hepatic duct. Hepatic duct and the cystic duct. Cystic duct open into the hepatic duct. They both are collectively called bile duct now. Okay, so the bile duct is connecting with the pancreatic duct. Understood? So cystic duct, hepatic duct, bile duct bile duct connected with the pancreatic duct here, and both are collectively formed as a hepatopancreatic duct. So here 4-5 names you should remember. Hepatopancreatic duct, which opens into the duodenum. That's a very important thing. And when you talk about the pancreas, it is again a leaf-like structure. Pancreas is a dual gland because it involves in exocrine function as well as endocrine function. Here they secrete a pancreatic juice, so exocrine function. So it opens into the duodenum, and also this small intestine secretes succus entericus, intestinal juice in digestion. So here this is the major important area where I said when we were discussing about the mucosa and submucosa, I said that this is the area duodenum. Submucosa secretes the juices, and that is very important. In the stomach, the mucus glands, goblet cell, small round, one round ball like structure, it secretes mucus in stomach, and here it is submucosa involved in the secretion. This is very important. And then jejunum, when you come down to ileum, again here the mucosa. So mucosa from the ileum and the stomach, and submucosa from duodenum in exam point of view. And then it is coming to the jejunum. This is also coiled, and then coming to the ileum where it is the villi, that is finger like projection which absorbs the food. And then it is coming to the large intestine. When it comes to the large intestine, the diameter is quite big when compared to the small intestine, and here it has got the cecum. See, this is the area the small intestine will ends up. After that it forms a big cecum. It is somewhat bulky, and then it is forming a ascending colon, transverse colon and descending colon. It comes here as a sigmoid S shape, sigmoid colon, and then rectum and anus. And in this cecum is very important because it is with finger like one more projection and wanted, that is, this is called appendix. It is a vestigial organ. Vestigial organ in the sense it is present in our system but it doesn't carry on any action, like, so this is vermiform appendix, an extension of a cecum. And the cecum, the main function is it has got some symbiotic bacteria which is helpful for the digestion, and also to prevent the backflow of a food here, that is the fecal matter or anything can be prevented going back. And this is the thing. So here the food is traveled and then coming to the rectum and then opens. Rectum is the place, so here it is coming, and this is the place where the unwanted thing, partially digested, undigested, all that is being stored. So here it is called feces. When the reflex comes, once this rectum is filled, the reflex has been sent to the brain and the brain gives back the command. According to that, the anal sphincter opens and the fecal matter is egested out from the system, defecation. Okay, and this is about the structure. And here I specially mentioned about the ducts, pancreatic duct. You just note it down. Pancreas has got a pancreatic duct, liver has got a bile duct. Before that it was hepatic duct, cystic duct, and then collectively hepatopancreatic duct. This is the structure of a thing, and let us see about the digestion and its process. It's a digestion process now, wherein you have the digestion process is mechanical and chemical process both, because you are masticating and you are rotating the food and there is a churning movement in stomach. All comes under mechanical, and the chemical means a lot of changes happens from polysaccharide to disaccharide, disaccharide to monosaccharide, like and fats also have been converted till the end, that is chylomicrons. So there are a lot of changes. So this is also a chemical process. All this are controlled by central nervous system and hormones. So they both are controlling our digestive tract, alimentary canal. So let us start from buccal cavity. Buccal cavity means we discussed about the teeth and the tongue and all. Now the salivary gland secretes saliva. Per day around some 1.5 liters of saliva is secreted, and saliva pH is 6.8. And already I mentioned that we are swallowing the food. It is voluntary that it is is deglutition happens. Now the food what is being placed in the handful of food what is placed in the mouth is mixed with the saliva. This is called bolus. There is a lot of change in the food. First food, and then once it is mixed with the saliva, it is bolus. After that it is going to the stomach where it is mixed with the digestive juices, then it is called chyme. After that it is somewhat semi solid form. From there it is going to the small intestine where it is called chyle. So the food, bolus, chyme, chyle, at last it will be converted into feces. This is the change happens from food to feces. And here the saliva pH is 6.8, very close to neutral, and the major thing is it has got electrolytes to maintain the neutrality, like electrolytes called sodium, potassium, and I've written here. And then they've got a very important antibacterial element, lysozyme, to kill the bacteria, and salivary amylase which act on maltose saliva. So the carbohydrate digestion starts in mouth itself, and there is no carbohydrate digestion in stomach, and all the things that carbohydrate, protein, fat, everything is digested in small intestine. So carbohydrate digestion starts in mouth itself. There is no any protein and other digestive elements here. And now the food is passed via the esophagus and getting into the stomach. So when you talk about the stomach, the major function for stomach is it is the reservoir of a food. Food here stores for some 4 to 5 hours. That is the first point. Second point, HCl is present, completely acidic it is. The HCl pH is almost 1.8. So here all the microbes are killed. That is the second point. And the third important point for a NEET exam is here the HCl is converting any solid that is complex matter into a simple matter, means no. HCl is increasing the speed of an action, number 1, action of an enzyme. Number 2, HCl is involved in the conversion of pepsinogen, that is inactive form of an enzyme, that is proenzyme to an active enzyme. So that is an important point. So when you come down here, the stomach, there is no any peristaltic moment here. It is a churning moment. So it is kind of a thing that we will be making the butter from the buttermilk and just like that. So we just make that, and here this is the thing. It has got important 3 cells, chief cells, oxyntic cells, and mucus cells, and also the secretion by mucus layer, and the stomach secretes the content from the mucus layer. Here the chief cell is otherwise called as peptic cell or a Paneth cell or even a zymogen cell. Their names are there, and they secrete pepsinogen, renin, and then gastric lipase. As I said, there is no carbohydrate digestion here, and this oxyntic cell secretes, it is otherwise called as parietal cell. Exam question, generally they ask only the parietal cell, they don't put in this oxyntic. So the parietal cell you can remember, and this is HCl, a completely acidic and intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor in the sense, this factor if it is present, the vitamin B12 will be absorbed by the person. In case sometime in genetically, if the vitamin B12 absorption factor is off, if that particular gene is switched off, means the person will have a pernicious anemia. They'll have anemia throughout their life because the B12 will not be absorbed by their system, and HCl action we'll see. And here the mucus cells or the next cells secretes mucus. So the first one here, pepsinogen, it is in inactive form because it is acidic fluid. Now the food present in the stomach is acidic in nature because of HCl secretion. So the enzyme is inactive. The HCl will makes the inactive or a pro-pepsinogen, that is proenzyme, into an active active pepsin. This pepsin converts the protein into peptones and proteoses. This is the conversion. And the renin is probably, it is mostly working on the children, and this is working on milk protein. And here one thing what you have to note down is renin, double N. Another renin will be studying under excretory system. Don't get confused with 2N will be here. And then gastric lipase, this is also a protein, milk protein works on, mostly this works on the children, and adult people renin will not have any role to play in. And here the gastric lipase works on the lipids, that is the fat elements. And HCl, as I said, this is converting the proenzyme into an enzyme and also kills the microbes. Intrinsic factor we discussed now. And mucus secretion is very much helpful for preventing the loss of a cells, because it is completely acidic, so the internal layer of a stomach shouldn't be eroded away with this HCl, so the stomach walls are completely protective because of the mucus, number one. And also number two, it gives a good lubrication for the food to move easily, and this is the function of a mucus. So here now the food is completely semi-solid form, chyme. It has to move to the small intestine now. Once it is coming to the small intestine is a very important area wherein you have bile juice and then pancreatic juice and then intestinal juice. So three important juices are involved in the conversion of complex into a simple food. The first one will focus on pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice is very important. Now imagine the food is coming from the stomach, so it is acidic. So when the acidic food comes, the enzymes will not work on it, because all enzymes are protein. Only these two enzymes are working on a acidic pH. Pepsin and renin works on acidic pH. Always remember that. And otherwise the protein is so sensitive to the pH, so they don't generally work. Now when the food is coming, it is acidic, so while it is coming to an acidic, the pancreatic enzyme first comes, means their actions would be completely disturbed. So what happened, the liver bile juice will be secreted. So bile juice here, it is highly alkaline, that is almost 8.4 8.5 kind, so that will convert the acidic food into a neutral. Then the pancreatic juice secretes pancreas. In spite of all this precautions have been taken by our system, still the pancreatic juice enzymes are all inactive form or in proenzyme form. They secrete trypsinogen, that is again the gen, in the sense it is the inactive form. The trypsinogen will be converted into trypsin after the food arrival, and enterokinase enzyme will involve to convert this into trypsin, and this trypsin will be activating all the other enzymes, and here chymotrypsinogen will be converted into chymotrypsin, and then procarboxypeptidases will be converted into carboxypeptidases, amylase on starch, and then lipase on lipids, and nucleases on nucleic acids like nucleotidase or nucleosidase and this kind. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enzymes are involved for the conversion of a complex into simple food. And then when you come down to the bile juice in the sense this is secreted from liver. I said the liver is the largest gland. It has got very important elements in it. It is a rejuvenating organ in our system, and it has got a blood capillaries, glycan capsules are there, and they secrete variety of content because they play so many roles, urea metabolism, and then the killer of RBC cells in adults, and then the forming the RBC when it is in embryonic stage. So many functions, and then detoxifying the food. Out of all this, the major function involved in the digestive process is emulsification of fat. Emulsification of fat is not that the complex fat is converted into fatty acid and glycerol. It is not that. Actually, fatty acid and glycerols have been formed found in all these processes, even by the succus entericus, cannot be taken by the cell. So they will be converting even that the smallest fatty acids and glycerols will be in a still more smaller compound called chylomicrons. Then it will be getting into the lactease or the finger-like projections called villi absorption. Okay, so here the bile juice has got a bile pigments, bile salts and cholesterol, and then phospholipids, many things, but one peculiar thing with the bile is they don't have any enzymes in it, and this bile pigments names are very important, bilirubin and bilirubinin, and they are very important to break the compound of a hemoglobin, because RBCs are killed in liver, and this has been killed. For that they are involving, and also they are mixing with the bile salts, give color to the fecal matter and color to the urine. That is the main function of the bile salts and bile pigments. And here the fatty acids are actually, they are very small granules, and this is covered by a bile juice, miscellaneous, and again this is further covered by a bile juice and pancreatic juice and converted into chylomicrons, and then getting into the lactease and absorbed by the system. That is the emulsification of fat. And the next one is intestinal juice. That is, intestinal juice mostly secreted in the duodenal area and a little bit in the jejunum area. So by the time the food passes from the duodenum to the jejunum, almost some 85 to 90% of the digestion gets over, and here in the intestinal juice the pH is again 7.8, completely alkaline, and that is otherwise called as succus entericus, and this is secreted by mucosa. So in exam point of view, the mucosa layer secretes, where and all the mucus is secreted means number 1 here we have seen in the stomach, number 2 in the small intestine succus entericus, number 3 even in the large intestine the mucus is secreted. So the 3 areas the mucus secretion is there, exam question. And here this is again the goblet cell. Goblet cell means the cell which is like this, that's it, single goblet cell, like an alveoli, a single alveoli kind, and it has got disaccharidases and then dipeptidases and lipases and nucleotidase. What this disaccharidases and then nucleotidase means, now the food from polysaccharide to disaccharide, that has happened, and that disaccharide should be converted into monosaccharide. Dipeptide should be converted in the simplest form of an amino acid kind. All that has to be done. So here it is given an elaborate account. Look at here the dipeptides, and that is converted into amino acid with the help of dipeptidase. Maltose with the help of maltase, glucose and galactose. Lactose with the help of lactase, glucose and galactose. Sucrose, sucrase with the help of this, it will be converted into glucose and fructose, because it is sucrose is the combination of fructose and glucose. And nucleotidase will be converted into nucleosidase. You know, nucleotide means nitrogenous bases, deoxyribose sugar and phosphate. See, between the all the 3 combines it is called nucleotide. If there is no phosphate, it is nucleoside. So nucleotidase means between these two, that is between the phosphate and then the DNA sugar, deoxyribose sugar, the bond is cut, that is by nucleotidase. After that only these 2 are there, that is deoxyribose sugar and then nitrogenous base. If this is cut, this 2 will, with the help of nucleosidase, that can be converted into sugar and bases, that is deoxyribose sugar and nitrogenous bases, because all we eat is a living creatures, like plant products or animal. They've got their DNA has got a high Dalton weight that should be broken down into a simplest compound, then only the cell can absorb it, and that is being done here. And then di and monoglycerides, it's all been converted into glycerides, I said, the fatty acid and glycerols with the help of the lipase, and fatty acids and glycerols have been formed, and from there only the bile juice converts everything into chylomicrons, the observable form by the cells. And all this is being done in the small intestine. And when the food is traveling to the large intestine, there is no any significant digestion. And the main thing in the large intestine, because of the diameter and the squamous epithelial cells present in it, they just absorb the water present, because here the food is semi-solid. When it is coming here, it was semi-liquid, it's chyle, and the water content of the body should be balanced. For that, the water is being taken back by the system with the help of a large intestine. And here they absorb water, and some of the minerals are taken back, and then some drugs also being taken. And especially there is a population of E. coli in the large intestine. It's symbiotically associated, so they are very much helpful to absorb some compounds, and also helpful for the easy digestion and easy flow of the digested food, and all that has happened. And here secretion of a mucus is there. As I said, the three important places for the mucus secretion, for a easy lubrication of unwanted things to move towards the rectum. And here the cecum is present. Actually, cecum is the initial region of large intestine, and the cecum has got a ileocecal valve, and this valve is actually preventing the backflow of a fecal matter. At last, water is being taken back, and now the solid form of a content called feces is coming to the rectum and stored there for a time. That is stored. Maximum duration of time for a fecal storage in rectum is 36 hours, maximum storage. After that, it won't be there as a feces, like it will be just go back in the gaseous form, it will mix into the system and it will collapse our system. So now it is stored in the rectum. After that, the anus, when anal sphincter opens, it will be releasing the fecal matter. That is called defecation. Defecation is a very important process. Defecation, and that is a voluntary process. As I did, deglutition, that is you are swallowing the food, and the defecation, all the other things are all under the CNS and hormonal control. Let us go with the next, absorption, and the next one, like some disorders of digestive tract we'll see now. Let us go with the third process of absorption. Now the food is completely digested in stomach and the small intestine and mouth, and all that is over. Now what is being digested should be absorbed. The absorption is done by small intestinal villi. Villi are nothing but a finger-like projection. Here this is the finger-like projection. The finger-like projections are just an extension of mucosa. In the first part of digestive process we have seen there, I said. And inside this you have got a lacteal vessels. It's nothing but a lymph vessels, and covered by the red color patches. They are all blood capillaries, and this is having some crepes just below this, and this is called the crepes of Leberkin. The diagrams are all very important, especially the labelings. And this is the area the food is traveling, and it is absorbed and then mixes into the blood and goes off. So the food is absorbed. How it is absorbed, like what are all the ways and means they are absorbed like by the small intestine. See, here there are some processes, like you would have studied about diffusion, facilitated transport, or active transport, or in case of an osmosis. Not all the food is absorbed by the same way. Water is easily absorbed by osmosis, but especially the glucose and galactose and fructose and all in different forms. See, glucose is absorbed both by diffusion as well as by active transport method, but fructose goes with the facilitated transport. Amino acid, glucose and electrolytes, here also the same thing. So they can be absorbed by diffusion and active transport, and facilitated transport, fructose and again some amino acids. So here a slight confusion will come while you are choosing it, because generally in the book it is given amino acids, generally it is given. Here they both the way it is mentioned as amino acids, but here some amino acids, they didn't mention anything specifically what are all the amino acids absorbed by. And also here the fructose goes along with that. Just remember that for the facilitated transport is important for that. And osmosis, as usually the water is taken by osmosis process, and after the food is absorbed, whatever thing something has to be adjusted out, should get out from the system, that is coming and stored in the rectum region, and after rectum is filled, there will be a neural reflex, and then the brain gives order to open the sphincter, anal sphincter, and then the anal sphincter opens, and then the fecal matter is get out of the system. We are adjusting out. That is called defecation, as it is again a voluntary process. Sphincter muscle opening and all coming under neural control, but removal is coming under our control. So voluntarily we'll remove just the content out. So that's all about the content of this. And here one table is given in the book, that is which are all the area very important in observing what are all the content we are eating. In that, three important region. It's often this is important in exam point of view. Stomach and this region, large intestine, water is absorbed here, and then the large intestine water is absorbed. In some books it is given even the water is absorbed by mouth also, but in our NCERT it is not mentioned. It is mentioned only the drugs. So you better learn what is given in the NCERT. Drug is taken by the mouth, and here the drug is taken, and here also the drug is absorbed, the large intestine. Comparatively you study. And the small intestinal area, irrespective of anything, all the things, glucose, fructose, amino acids, glycerol, everything is taken. Even there is a stomach, there is alcohol absorption. Sometimes indirectly they'll pose a question, if the alcohol consumption is more, the person could not eat properly because the alcohol is absorbed by the stomach itself. So this is very important. After that, the last fag end of this chapter is disorder. What are all the disorder? Here also the common question might be the indigestion. Indigestion means the feeling of fullness. You feel that something is filled, like you don't feel like taking it. That is called indigestion. And anxiety, that is the another word is given in the book, that these are all the symptoms that you don't feel like taking food. That is indigestion. Vomiting, that is it is just coming out reflexively. Sometimes the overloaded, sometimes the food will be released out. Actually it is a one-way traffic from mouth to anus it should come, but sometimes if it is overloaded or the esophageal sphincter is not properly working, and the food will be coming out, vomiting. Jaundice means any liver disorder is called jaundice only, and the fecal matter turn to be white in color, and urine will be very thick yellow in color, or else the eyes will be turned yellow in color. These are all the symptoms of jaundice, and it's because of the liver irregular metabolism or abnormal activity of a liver. And then inflammations, the full entire tract has got 4 layers. I said serosa, muscularis, submucosa. I'm saying sometimes the worm infections like ascariasis or teniasis infection is there. That also reflects to the inflammation of a entire tract, especially in the small intestine and then larger intestine area. And diarrhea, abnormal bowel movement. This is bowel movement only because of the peristalsis, constriction and relaxation. It is a bowel movement, and here the diarrhea is a common thing if overeating or any food poisoning, that the water is not taken back by the large intestine. So the water is coming along with the feces, that is the diarrhea. So diarrhea is different from dysentery. Dysentery means actually the loose motion with the blood streaks. Here diarrhea only the rice water stool, just like a watery flow of a feces. And constipation is also a problem, like irregular bowel movement. Bowel movement is not proper, or something unwantedly we dump into it, that leads into a constipation. That the rectum muscles are not getting proper signal from the neural control, so that it won't open and it is lodged there. That also give an irritation to the system. That is because of irregular bowel movement. So that's all about the disorders. So with this I just compiled in a very short form. I have compiled it for the sake of a NEET exam. Please go through. If you have a doubt, you put it in the comment section. We'll just discuss further. Subscribe and share, and please recommend to your friends too. Thank you.